Now, another real significant aspect of the Touhou fandom is something that you'd fairly well expect to see in the internet fandom of any item of popular culture, and that would be doujinshi comics. Stuff that you often see released at Comic Het and Rataisai and such like that, where people just draw either short little stories about the characters doing cute things in 4-coma comic strips, or maybe like a big long tankobon-sized long epic story of big fierce struggles and everything. Just still using all the characters that came with the games in canon. But also too, something that everybody's ashamed to talk about and nobody likes to admit exists, honestly, me included, fan fiction, blah. And people write fan fiction about everything, and it's not just Touhou, but largely because, hey, we like the characters, we think they have potential more than what was done in the canon story, and we want to explore that potential. A lot of this happens with Touhou, of course. Most of it is crap, and pretty much all of it is not worth our time to read. But it really says something here about Touhou specifically because of just the sheer pervasive quantity of it. There's so much. And this girl right here, Yomu Kanbaku, I have mixed feelings about her. I really like her as a character, but I hate her as a boss. She is so amazingly, punishingly difficult. I mean, look at these bullet screens here. I have a huge, enormously hard time just navigating through those things. And you're going to see just Yomu absolutely object rape me throughout this entire game here. But using her as an example here, I really wonder if there wasn't some aspect that Zune did in the style of his storytelling within the Touhou games that didn't really encourage people to write doujinshi and fan fiction about it. And I'm not even talking about just the character personalities themselves, because the character personalities in the games aren't all that well defined, and intentionally so. He wants to leave it open so that fan artists can come along and make up a lot of their own stuff and help contribute to the community. But I'm not just talking about the characters, but also something about the situations too. Like let's use Perfect Cherry Blossom here as an example. Yomu here is the servant of the mistress of the Netherworld, and she was commanded by the mistress of the Netherworld to go out into the mortal world and gather all of the spring essence and bring it back to the Netherworld so that it could be used to make a giant zombie tree bloom. And now I've given some thought to this, and I'm wondering, I'm not sure I really buy this. My belief is not suspended, and the reason why I say that is because Yomu here is the stereotypical noble swordsman knight character. You got the swords, and you see her in her doujinshi depictions. She's often very skilled with her swords, very quick, and even in canon, somebody worked out some mathematics about some of the canon descriptions and determined that she can slice her sword at 26 times the speed of light or some ridiculous thing like that. And she's depicted as a really highly skilled, noble swordsman character, that kind of knight stereotype. And I just don't buy that she would take such an unjust and horrible order from her mistress. I mean, you know what? I want my tree to bloom, so go to the mortal world and steal one of their seasons. That's just really petty and childish. That's like something you might expect a 6-year-old girl to do. Go over to Betty's house and pull her pigtails until she hands over her Wii. That's just not something I would see a mistress of the Netherworld is doing. And some people have argued with me and said that, oh well, Yomu is just so noble and loyal that she'll do what her mistress says no matter what, no matter how horrible it is. And I can't buy that either, because noble swordsmen, they love and respect their masters because their masters are noble and good people. And I know there's arguments and arguments and arguments about this, and we could, people could go back and forth about it all day long, but it's never changed the fact that I see this as just being really total BS. I don't really buy the storytelling that Zune has done here, particularly in this game. And I think this has this is a big contributor to what causes doujinshi and fanfiction to be so widespread, because people see these characters with potential that they really like, but then it's not used in the way that they think is appropriate and try to do it themselves. So anyway, enough of my rambling about storytelling. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say about that. But we've got here here, these spell cards that you've been watching Yomu just murder me with are the reason why I dislike her as the boss so much. She is disproportionately difficult compared to any other easy boss, I think, in the entire series, and probably one of the most difficult bosses for easy mode in all the series, and most certainly the most difficult stage 5 boss. There is nobody who punishes me as much as she does. I've played this game dozens of times, and even now there are still attacks I haven't been able to telegraph. Oh, and one other thing I'm remembering just now, another story, there's a lot of story details that Zune talks about that really don't make sense to the common mind. Like, he describes Yomu's swords there, the shorter one and the long one, as one of them is being able to cut 12 ghosts in a single slash, and the other sword can cut through a live human's confusion. What does that mean? I can tell you sometimes that description right there is confusing enough that I think I'd need the sword to help me understand it. I mean, how do you cut through a person's confusion? Are we just getting English here, or is it just silliness? I don't know.